Hi everyone, welcome to Tuesday of week 5. Hopefully you had a good couple of days off, whether that meant that you didn't work or that you worked extra hours or that you got a chance to catch up on Barefoot Again or other courses. Whatever it is, welcome. And today is Tuesday, right? Today is February 2nd, 22nd, 2022. So lots of twos today, and at 2:22 p.m. today, I think it's going to be an ambigram and it's kind of a cool day because there's a bunch of twos and it won't happen again for many, many years. So anyway, it's a fun little fact for you. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at week number 5. As you can see on the screen here, our plan, what we're doing this week is we're not quite wrapping up our study of Hiroshima yet, but we're getting there. We obviously finished Barefoot Again last week. If you did not get a chance to finish it, please make sure you do, especially because the bombing of Hiroshima doesn't really happen until the end of that text. And so you want to make sure that you at least get to that point. Otherwise, writing the essay is going to be challenging for you. So this week we are kind of bringing in additional perspectives. We're starting with John Hersey's Hiroshima, which is one of the most historical accounts of what happened in Hiroshima from an outsider's perspective. And then we're going to kind of invite into the conversation what else people knew about what had happened as a way to kind of, again, think about Adichie's question of what it means to only have a single story, but then to also really think about what is the value of having multiple perspectives and multiple voices and lenses? And that's really what essay number 1 is going to ask you to talk about. So let's go ahead and dive right in. It's important to learn at least a little bit about who John Hersey is. And kind of why he was motivated to go to Hiroshima. So I included just a little bit of background here, and then a bunch of links for those of you who are really interested in learning kind of more about his motivation. Some of you might be thinking, well, Miller, I don't even know what you're talking about. You're going to be reading an article. It's not even an article. It's an extended essay by a journalist named John Hersey, who traveled to Hiroshima. He was one of the first reporters to go and kind of report on what was happening there. And he was hired by the New Yorker to do that. And when he came back and he wrote his story, the New Yorker, which is a very famous magazine, weekly magazine, they devoted the entire issue to his essay. So it's long. So that's why it's important for you to have a little bit of background, a little bit of context to his writing. So read through this so that you have a sense of who Hersey is and why he was motivated, and also kind of the accolades that he received in his journalism about Hiroshima. I've given you here on the actual link there are 4 different chapters, and I've given you the PDF, but I've also given you the online version. It's a pretty big PDF, so if you struggle with downloading PDFs on your computer, then you might just want to go to the online version and read it online, but just kind of be aware of that. I would encourage you to kind of read each chapter individually, and that way you can also kind of begin to track the people that he's really talking about, because instead of just going and just writing about Hiroshima, kind of in the same way that we are reading Barefoot Again, he follows 6, I think, different people throughout the course of his essay, and he's kind of writing about what has happened to these individuals. And so sometimes it's a lot, right? It's a lot of their stories. So there's 4 different chapters. So maybe read a chapter a day or 2 chapters a day, but it's you can read it all in one sitting, but it's a lot to digest all at once. So that's your first primary reading for this week. The second is a bunch of kind of primary documents from the crew of the Enola Gay. So these are the men who were piloting the bomber. I've given you kind of, some of these interviews are really long, and so I've tried to kind of give you some ideas of, what to listen to and kind of where to listen to it. But I think it's really interesting to kind of hear their perspectives and hear their voices. So these first two are interviews that you can find on YouTube. Again, kind of watch the time markers that I'm giving you here. The bottom link is interesting for those of you who like reading oral histories. So these are all oral histories of people who were somehow involved in Hiroshima or Nagasaki, whether they were part of the Manhattan Project and they were of the building of the bomb, or they were in the pilots, or they were, the camera crew or whatever. So there's a variety of folks here whose stories you can read, which again, I think are pretty interesting. And then I ended it with an article from one of the pilots on the plane. His nephew kind of wrote about what his uncle, who was on the Enola Gay, what his uncle thought about their actions in Hiroshima. So I include that for you there. So we have Barefoot Gen, survivor. We have John Hersey, outside journalist. We have the pilots, right? And so the other piece that I thought would be really kind of interesting for us to think about is, what did regular American citizens know? And kind of when did they know it, right? And not as a way to point fingers or to find fault, but to really kind of wonder, like, what did Americans know about what was happening? And what was their reaction after they knew what had happened? And to kind of, again, think about that single story, like what do we learn, right? And to really kind of think about Barefoot Gen as like an entryway into thinking about historical events and historical moments and how we learn of them and whose perspective we're getting and whose we're missing, right? So to kind of really call all of that into question. So there are a variety of articles here that I thought were really interesting. I included President Truman's presidential address that took place just after the bombing of Hiroshima. This little, I know that that things on Reddit are not necessarily accurate, but what I thought was really interesting was this thread about how Hiroshima is taught around the world. And people from all over the world kind of chimed in with what they learned in their history class about the bombing of Hiroshima. So I thought that this was actually really interesting to just see what people knew and how they knew it. So that's kind of what America knew. Okay, so that kind of brings a close to the content of this first unit, right? Now, I posted the essay number 1 assignment because I want you to just start to kind of think about what you might want to write about. But I don't want you to start anything until after you've gotten through this week's reading. Largely because the essay is asking you to think about perspective and, again, Adichie's concept of the single story and kind of knowledge and kind of how we know what we know, and really thinking about that through Barefoot Gen, through Gen's story, and through what we know about Hiroshima. So we will be talking more about this, so don't feel like you have to rush out and start the draft. But do make sure that you take a look at this. And then I opened up a Discord channel specifically for essay number 1. You can find that under the Let's Talk About. And you'll find, too, that the week 5 Discord is also about the essay, just to kind of get you thinking and talking with each other about it. So this is the essay that we're going to be working on for this week and next week and week after that. I'm starting to give you some of the writing skills as a way to kind of get ready for the essay. So as you know, you don't have to buy a writing or any kind of composition book for this class. They're all embedded pages. So this is the first one. That's all about pre-writing. This is just a good reminder of how to pre-write and how to kind of organize your ideas. So this page is embedded into our Canvas class. And so you have to navigate according to whatever directions I'm giving you up here. So you're only going to be reading 3 pages, but you have to click through. I know it's kind of wonky, but you have to click through right here, right? So you're going to click within the textbook and click next. So this takes you to the second page, and then you're going to do that again at the bottom and click through, and that takes you to the 3rd page that I want you to read. It's all the way up here. And then you're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom to get back to our class, right? So you're going to be doing that. Same thing on this page is about essay structure, and I really want you to read this if you are struggling with the three-part thesis, right? And that three-part thesis, of course, is, this essay is going to be about cats, dogs, and ponies. Paragraph 1, cats, paragraph 2, dogs, paragraph 3, ponies. You can't write that type of formulaic essay in this class and really kind of moving forward, right? It's a good way to learn about essay structure, but it's not something that is sustainable once you get into really complicated topics and complex topics. So we'll talk more about that, but for now, again, I want you to read through this page, especially if you know that you like that structure, if you know that you like that, that three-point thesis. So these pages speak directly to that. So I'm going to scroll all the way down. And then the roadmap. The roadmap is just a way for you to begin kind of organizing your ideas. It's not anything that's required. It's just a way for you to begin thinking about kind of not so much what you want to say, but how you might want to organize your thoughts. And it's early in this process, so I'm giving this to you in advance so that way you can kind of tinker with it. Yeah, and I've given you some examples here too. It's just a way to organize your thoughts. All right, you can begin conferencing this week if you want. If you want to just kind of talk through your ideas, or if you want to talk about questions or whatever. In order to schedule a conference, you're just going to go into our class, click on this schedule a conference link right here. It'll bump you into my Calendly, which is a scheduling app, and then you can just pick your day and time that you would like to meet. And there are all the directions and kind of generally the times that I'm available. And then, yeah, like I mentioned, the Discord for this week is all about essay number 1. Thoughts and questions and kind of ideas that you have. It's space for you to have that conversation with me if you would like, with your peers. It's just kind of an open forum for that. Writing territory number 5 does not have a mentor skill this week. So you can use any of the mentor skills from the last couple of weeks. You can use one of them, you can use more of them, it's up to you. Just highlight whatever you use, but it's kind of an open forum this week, so you can write about whatever you want and whatever mentor skill that you would like. And then that kind of takes us to the end of week 5. So, really this week your task is to really finish the content for unit 1, and then to really kind of lay it all out and think about, maybe rewatch the Adichie TED Talk, right? And really kind of think about, all right, well, what is it that I'm learning about that perspective, or I'm thinking about when it comes to single story? Or, again, on the essay assignment, there's a bunch of questions to kind of get you thinking. So, the goal of this essay, of course, is for you to write, but really the critical thinking for me is for you to kind of go through this process of considering, what's valid for me, what's interesting to me, what's relevant to me, what's maybe relevant how I ingest information or kind of how I filter information, and how can you bring in the material from this unit to kind of help show that as an example. So I know if some of you really like prompts, you like a clear prompt, but this is, life doesn't give you clear prompts, right? And so I want to try to help you develop some of those critical thinking skills in terms of what's relevant, or kind of asking yourself what's relevant to you, what's meaningful to you, what resonated with you, and how can you write about that, right? And so the essay is a way for you to be able to do that. So all of that said, is anybody really ready? No, it's okay, right? I'm here to help support you. Come and have a conference. You can conference with me as many times as you want. If the conference times that I have available don't work for you, let me know and we'll figure something out. But don't struggle in silence. Let me know how I can help you. And I will look forward to seeing you on the Discord this week.